Welcome back with a smiling face. Links to previous episodes are given in the video description, so don't forget to like, subscribe and share the video. The Luna in the Shadows. Episode 3. Lucy's POV. I sighed, dropping myself onto the bed. I'd spent the entire day trying to comfort Eden, but nothing Isabella or I did was enough to make her feel better. After hours of non-stop crying, we had finally gotten her to fall asleep. Right after Mother had insisted I get some rest as well, and so she had assigned me to this room for the remaining of my stay here. I hadn't heard or seen Austin ever since the meeting with the council members. It had me restless. I had no idea where he was or what happened with James. I desperately wanted to see him, wanted him near me, wanted to ensure that he was safe. Footsteps outside the door caught my attention as the room door swung open. "We need to talk," Hermano announced upon entering the room. Under his eyes were dark and he looked like he'd been through hell for the past hours. I rose up immediately. "What's wrong?" I asked, studying his tensed frame. What wasn't wrong was the question that should have been asked, however, for everything seemed to be going in the wrong direction at this point. "Come with me," he ordered. I didn't waste any time as I quietly followed my brother down the narrow hallway and into another room where the rest of my brothers stood waiting. My eyes immediately connected with deep blue eyes that seeped straight through me. Austin! What was he doing here? Did I miss something? They were in the same room together and no one killed each other yet? "Lucy," Marcus started. "First of all, we owe you an apology. Father was right, just like always we acted without thinking and made a big mess out of everything. We want to help fix things," Lutheus added. "We would provide a distraction for you and Austin to leave." My brows furrowed at their words. Wouldn't this put them in danger for having any part in our escape? I saw how brutal and heartless the council was. I didn't want to put my brothers in any kind of danger because of me. "Don't worry, we will handle everything from here." Nolan cut in as he took in my expression, almost as if he read my mind. "The council is brutal, but we are beneficial to them. They wouldn't give us any punishment we couldn't handle." Austin was leaned up against the wall, his gaze burning into my skin. He hadn't taken his eyes off me since I'd stepped into the room, and it was doing crazy things to my body. I tried hard to focus on my brother's next words, but he was making it very difficult to concentrate. He made it seem as though we were the only two in the room, like he didn't care for anyone else's presence but mine. "Lucy," Hermano called, catching my attention. "Tonight you are to meet Austin in front of the statue of the dragon. I would already be there waiting for you. I can get you both out of here without being spotted by any of the guards." When all of my brothers had finished planning our escape, Hermano quietly turned to Austin with a pleading look. "Please keep my sister safe, we're leaving her life in your hands." Austin gave a slow nod. "She is safe with me. I give you my word," he promised. I stared at all the men in the room with a blank expression clouding my face. What exactly happened while I wasn't here? Suddenly they seemed like they didn't hate each other anymore. What caused the sudden change? "Lucy," Hermano said my name with a sad smile. "Once again we would like to offer our deepest apologies for bringing you into this mess. We hope you can forgive us one day. We never meant for all of this to happen. We just wanted to bring our sister home and see her happy and safe amongst her family." "Don't apologize. I cried, walking into their embrace as they all held me in a warm hug. It means the world to me that you wanted me near you so much that you took this big risk. Nothing else matters but that you did it out of your love for me. Nothing. A low growl tore from Austin behind us, forcing us to break away. Are you serious? Thane grunted. We're her brothers, not some random stranger trying to grope her. I hid my blush as a scowl formed on Austin's face. As I scanned the room looking at the grin on each of my brothers' faces at Austin's expression, I instantly knew that I was going to miss all of them dearly. I turned to Eden. Her eyes were still swollen from all of the crying, but she still managed to give me a small sad smile. I'm so happy to have been given this precious time with you, Lucy. I would treasure it till I get to see you again. I returned her sad smile. I wouldn't trade us meeting for anything in the world. Please take care of yourself. Isabella took my hands in hers. Sister, you truly have shone light into our lives with this one visit. Nothing compares to the happiness we felt having you by our side. We love you so very much and always will. Thank you for your sweet words, Isabella. I whispered, wiping the tears on her cheeks. I swallowed, unsure of how to say goodbye to my mother. She didn't look okay. In fact, she looked as though she would faint any minute now. I don't know why, Lucy, but this goodbye is even more difficult than the first. It's selfish of me, but I wish there was some way you could stay here. She cried, pulling me into her arms. I love you, my beautiful daughter. You're everything I always knew you would be and much more. I'm so proud of you. She whispered as I felt her tears drop onto my shoulders. I held her closely as she continued to sob. Nothing in this entire world could have made me happier than getting to see you after so many years. I whispered, my eyes brimming brightly with unshed tears. Please take care of yourselves and know that I love all of you more than anything. As she let go of me, I turned to scan my surroundings once again, have been doing so for the past 20 minutes. My father was nowhere to be found. Apparently he didn't even care to say goodbye to me. It hurt, but at least I was given the love of everyone else in my family. That is all that should matter. It just didn't feel complete without him being here. He hadn't spoken a word to me since my arrival, and it seemed like I would also leave this place without hearing anything from him. It hurt. I held in the tears that threatened to fall. I didn't want to say goodbye to my family. The little time spent with them filled a part of me that I didn't even know was missing. I didn't want to lose them once again. Wished there was some way I could take them back with me. Wished there was a way they could be close friends with Austin's family once again. If only it were possible, but I knew as long as the council was involved, those dreams would never come true. The knock on the door caught me by surprise. I wasn't supposed to meet Austin until the next hour, so who could be at the door? My feet started to move of their own accord, hoping that it was indeed Austin coming to greet me instead of I having to meet him by the statue. I opened the door to come face to face with a very tall, muscular man with scary dark brown eyes that seemed to see straight through my soul. I shivered. Vampire. I hadn't seen him around before, and for some reason he gave me the chills. Lucy? He asked. As soon as I nodded, I instantly regretted it as a creepy smile formed on the vampire's face. He quietly closed the door behind him, never taking his eyes off my face. My heart sped up as my nerves exploded. What are you? I didn't get to finish as he grabbed me and shoved a cloth over my face, covering both my nose and mouth. I struggled against his hold, my feet hitting against the table next to me as it crashed to the floor, throwing other appliances down with it. I continued to fight against his hold, trashing from side to side and throwing down other things in the process. A whimper escaped my mouth, my cries muffled against the cloth as I fought to be free. Nothing worked, however. The vampire was too strong for me. My mind crying out to Austin was the last thing I remembered before darkness completely engulfed me. Austin's POV, where was she? My wolf was on alert, even he sensed that something was wrong. Lucy was supposed to meet me over 20 minutes now, we were scheduled to be out the palace by now, but there was no sign of her anywhere. I'd searched the entire arena but got nothing, not even her sweet scent was anywhere around. There was only one place I hadn't searched yet and was heading there now, my feet pounding against the floor impatiently. I pivoted and made my way into the room she was supposed to be staying in, my heart rate accelerating at what I saw. The room was in a mess, showing clear signs that someone had put up a strong fight. What happened in here? I continued to scan the room anxiously, searching for anything that could possibly give me clues on what happened. Something folded neatly on the bed caught my attention, a note. I grabbed the small piece of paper and impatiently unfolded it, my heart turning to stone at the words written there in black ink. Come to the northern woods, near the cliff, we have Lucy. Do not come in your wolf form or we harm the girl. Sweat broke out on my forehead. Fury lashed through me like a whip as the words sunk into my brain, panic overtaking my entire body in strong waves made it difficult for me to breathe. I struggled to keep a clear mind as I rushed out of the room, crashing into everything that was in my way. I had to get to her, had to get to my Lucy, before it was too late. I struggled to control my wolf as I rushed through the woods, running as fast as my body would let me. He was fighting to be let loose, fighting to reach Lucy, needed to see to her safety just as desperately as I did. As my feet neared the cliff, I could hear the violent waves crashing against its base almost violently, the water mimicking the sound of my own heart as it viciously beat against my chest in fear of Lucy's safety. I used my keen sense of hearing to drown out the sound of the water and focus for any other noises that could point me in the direction of Lucy. My throat tightened as I fought to catch my breath while I continued to search for her. When the first sound of her cry hit my ear, I felt my feet stumble forward, fear racing through my veins, consuming and swallowing me whole. Where were they? I channeled all my energy on focusing on her as I began running faster than I ever did in my entire life. My feet only stopping when I spotted her. Her eyes were wide open, terror-struck as Vincent held her roughly by her hair. They were surrounded by 5 other vampires. All eyes snapped up to me, sensing my presence. Their stances immediately turned defensive as the vampires hissed at me aggressively. Lucy followed their gazes and the fear in her eyes doubled as her gaze landed on me. I could literally feel the fear radiating off her body in great waves. Vincent pulled harder on Lucy's hair and she cried out at the pain. I saw red at the burning rage inside of me as I started in their direction. I wanted to kill the vampire, needed to see blood leaking from his body, needed it more than I needed air to breathe. When he was motionless before me, only then would I be satisfied. Don't come any closer, Vincent warned as he held a syringe against Lucy's neck. I froze. What was that thing? You know, he started. I was wondering when would be the perfect opportunity to test out this little invention of ours. It's supposed to poison the heart upon contact, it takes literally seconds before the poison overtakes your system, whether you be human or a supernatural being. If you decide to take another step, I'll be happy to test it out on your beloved Lucy." He threatened, and as if to emphasize his words applied more pressure against her neck. My body stood motionless, completely paralyzed at his words. My eyes never taking itself off the needle straining against Lucy's neck. "What do you want me to do?" I asked, unable to hide the desperation from my voice. The longer he held the needle against her neck, the harder it became to breathe. How could I reach her in time before he could inject the poison into her system? "I would do anything you ask of me," I added when he refused to answer my question. Vincent chuckled. "I like the sound of that, the great mighty Alpha agreeing to my every terms. I bet you're wondering why I asked you not to come in your wolf form. It's quite disappointing and an embarrassment really, a dent to our pride that you would think we wouldn't notice the presence of two powerful packs within our territory. I mean, the witch spell was good, but it wouldn't have taken a genius to know you wouldn't come to the council alone without any backup," he pointed out. "And how else would you have let your pack know you were in trouble unless you sent a mind link to them or let out your signal howl? Don't even bother trying to mind link, it wouldn't work. Cassandra has bounded the entire island with her spell, meaning your mind link wouldn't reach beyond the island." I stiffened at his words, all the blood rushing out of my face. "Yes, Austin, we know that your pack as well as your brothers is here, and we know exactly where they are hidden as well," he confessed with a smile. "In fact, right after we're finished with you here, we plan on paying them a little visit. I mean, after all, they came all the way here, how can we let them leave without a proper welcoming to the council? The packs were in danger and I had no way of informing them." When I said nothing, he continued further. "To answer your earlier question, I would like you to stand down and let these friendly vampires attack you. The minute you retaliate and fight back, Lucy gets the poison injected straight into her system." I stiffened as I heard Lucy's small gasp at his words. I saw her terrified gaze as the 5 vampires approached me with a smirk on their faces. The vampires were having fun. It didn't help that Vincent seemed to have chosen the very best of his kind for the fight either. When the first one grabbed me by my throat, Lucy screamed. Her voice, which echoed through the quiet forest, made its way all the way to my heart. I already knew that the most difficult part of this attack would be hearing Lucy's screams, none of the pain compared to what I felt hearing her terrified cries. It undid me in the worst way possible. I swallowed as I fought to not make a single sound at all the pain the vampires brought to my body. I couldn't frighten Lucy further. No, I had to fight the pain and suppress my tortured cries. For her sake I had to. Lucy's POV, I didn't know how to help Austin. I kept trying for my wolf to resurface like last time, but for some reason she wasn't rising. How does this thing even work? I watched in horror as the 5 vampires attacked him the same time, each taking turns at digging their sharp nails into his skin. "Please stop!" I screamed, unable to move an inch with Vincent's strong hold on my head. "Stop hurting him!" The vampires paid no attention to my cries as they all took turns in punching him in his stomach. I watched in horror as one of the vampires locked his head in a neck hold while the rest took turns to punch him in the face. My own heart felt like it lost the will to beat as blood started dripping from his mouth, making the horrifying scene even more difficult to look at. He wasn't fighting back. My heart hurt, the pain unbearable as it dawned on me that he was only doing it to protect me. Austin was in danger and it was all because of me. Austin! I screamed. Please fight back. Please see. He wasn't listening. Why wasn't he listening to me? Please. I begged Vincent. Please let him go. I would do anything you ask me to, just please. I beg of you, stop hurting him. I cried when it became clear to me that Austin wasn't going to fight back. Shut up, girl. Vincent hissed. You're making it hard to focus on the fun. He growled as he pulled on my hair tighter, forcing me to look at the horrific scene in front of me. My body began to shake uncontrollably as they dragged Austin's body closer to the cliff's edge. They continued to attack him from all directions, his blood dripping onto the ground as he struggled to stand. I felt all the life being sucked out of my body as I saw one of the vampires kick Austin right off the cliff. No, I screamed. I turned and bit down on Vincent's hand as hard as I could. The vampire hissed and slammed me against the ground. Before any of the other vampires could react, I jumped to my feet and ran towards the cliff's end, jumping off without a second thought, ignoring all the screams of protest behind me. The wind lashed at me harshly, my own hair whipping against my face as tears flowed from my eyes like a river at the thought of losing Austin, and before I know it I'm crashing into the water below me. My heart is pounding against my chest vigorously, crying out for both Austin and air to breathe at the same time. I didn't know which was more painful at the moment, for it seemed like I couldn't live without either one of them. Darkness began to suck me further and further in as the water completely engulfed me. Austin, I inwardly cried. Austin. Hermano's POV, something was wrong. There wasn't any sign of Austin or Lucy. They knew the gravity of the situation, so there was no way they would have reached late unless something happened, something bad. My feet started to move of their own accord as I raced through the palace, searching for them both. I paused as some voices near the meeting room caught my attention. Lucy wasn't supposed to jump off the cliff with Austin. Vincent roared. I had other plans for that stupid girl. You think they survived the fall? Draven asked. Austin is strong. More than likely he would survive. I'm unsure about Lucy. John muttered as if already bored with the conversation. My heart turned to stone at his words, and it took all of my self-control not to go into the room and rip every single one of them apart. If anything happened to my sister, no, I saw her strength that day, she would survive. She had to. I pivoted, impatient to get to my brothers and relay the news to them, that is until something they said caught my attention once again. When do you plan on ambushing their packs? I could almost see the smirk on Vincent's face as he answered John's question. They really thought that we wouldn't know that they would bring along their packs for backup in case anything went wrong. He chuckled. We will attack later. I just need some time to assemble our best warriors, then we leave and attack. I can't wait to see their surprised faces when we kill them all. This is going to be exhilarating. Draven grinned. What? Hermano's POV, this wasn't happening. Things had went from bad to worse in seconds. Not only did I not know the condition Austin and Lucy was from the fall or where they were, the packs were in danger, serious danger. There was no way they would be prepared for an attack from the council if they had the upper hand from the surprise attack. Vincent wasn't stupid. He knew Austin's and James's packs were two of the most powerful packs ever. He would only assemble our very best for the attack. He wasn't thinking in the best interests of the council, however. for many of our warriors would also die in the attack. Both sides would suffer a serious loss. What's wrong? Thane demanded as soon as I rounded the corner. The rest of my brothers looked up in my direction at his words, each waiting for me to say something. We have more than one problem on our hands, I confessed. Austin and Lucy never showed, so I went in search of them. You wouldn't like to hear what I found out. Thane stiffened at my words as he waited impatiently for me to continue. What? Nolan asked on alert, slamming the cup in his hand on the nearby table. Vincent ordered John to kidnap Lucy for payback after the incident with Austin and Draven. Those! Thane roared, his fists tightening to his sides. That's not the worst part. I continued, feeling the rage within me intensify at my next words. Austin and Lucy fell off the cliff, they have no clue what happened to them. My brothers stiffened at my words, fire burning in their eyes. We have to go search for them. I'm not finished, I told Marcus. They know that Austin's pack along with James's is waiting in the woods before the bridge. They plan on ambushing them later today. Vincent is already preparing our best warriors. My brothers shouted in unison. Why don't we just bring this news to the prosecutor? He already warned Vincent not to make any moves without informing him, Nolan suggested. I shook my head. The prosecutor would have Vincent punished for going against his words concerning Austin, but he would agree with Vincent's plan to ambush the packs since they are in our territory without our consent. He would see it as a breach. I explained, there was a chance he would stop it, but the chance was also high that he would let Vincent do as he pleased. It wasn't a risk I was willing to take. The fact also remains that he has left the premises with Father to set up a meeting with Hunter. We wouldn't make it to them in time. My brothers had snapped up to me at my words, and by the look they gave me, they each knew what it meant by the prosecutor going to meet Hunter, to complete the arrangements to have Eden wedded to the heartless monster. I shook that thought out of my head. We had more serious problems at hand right now. I couldn't think of Eden and Hunter now, had to deal with one problem at a time. What are we supposed to do now? Luthais asked, taking a step forward. I ran my hand through my hair in frustration. I've been asking myself that question the entire walk here. The best solution I came up with was to warn the packs of the ambush. They also need to know what happened to Austin and Lucy. If we make it in time, they could go in search of them while we stay back and buy them some time. If we're successful, they could return back to Austin's territory where it's much safer. Vincent wouldn't take the risk of attacking there, at least not anytime soon. Thane nodded. We need to move now, he agreed, clutching his blade tightly in his hand. As we approached the packs, the oppressors turned to growl at us, sensing a threat at our arrival. What are you doing here? James growled as the rest of the pack got into a defensive stance, as if preparing for a fight against us. Thane leaned against one of the trees with bored eyes. We didn't come here for a fight. James narrowed his eyes suspiciously with a fierce scowl on his face. Then why are you here? We came to warn you. Vincent is planning an ambush against your packs. You need to leave now. We don't have much time. I'm not leaving without Austin and Lucy, he growled. Yet! Lucas shouted. Where is my brother and his wife, and why didn't they come with you to warn us? I stiffened at the reminder of the danger my sister was in. That's another thing we need to talk about, I announced loud enough for the entire pack to hear. Austin and Lucy fell off the northern cliff while fighting off an attack from Vincent. We have no clue where they are now, so you must search all the nearby shores for them while my brothers and I try to hold back Vincent. I felt the rise of the tension in the atmosphere as my words sunk in. How we don't have time for explanations. I cut James off roughly, sensing the depth of his anger and knowing it wouldn't bring any good to any of us here if he let his rage get the best of him. Vincent is already on his way, you need to leave now. Find Austin and Lucy and go straight back to your territory. James stood motionless for a few seconds before he finally exhaled heavily. The Alpha knew what was at stake and as such he didn't need to be told twice as he quickly commanded the rest of the wolves to prepare for the escape. When he was finished giving orders to the betas and oppressors he turned to me with a grateful look clouding his face. Thank you. Just get back your brother and my sister safely home. Our families may have had their differences in the past but whether either sides liked it or not, the truth remained that we were now connected through Lucy and Austin. In other words, we now had each other backs, for the happiness of those we loved. He nodded, his eyes showed signs that there was much more he wanted to say to me. In fact it seemed as though he was having a battle within himself on whether to say it or not. As if the inner battle had won, he eventually spoke the last words I expected him to say. Please keep Eden safe. I understood why he said it, only James would know the pain he was feeling now to leave Eden behind, but he had a duty to his pack and to his family. They would come first, for they were the ones facing the most danger at the moment. Also, there wasn't much he could do. Eden belonged to the council just like my brothers and I did. Trying to take Eden would lead to the exact same thing he was trying to escape from now. I give you my word, no harm would come to my sister. I promised. Now go. Austin's POV, I groaned, rolling over to my side and opened my eyes. I squinted at the blinding Sunday, the hot sand stinging my back. Sand? What? Where was I? Memories of the night flashed before my eyes, my body froze as I felt all the blood drain from my face, my heart clenching painfully in my chest. Lucy. My eyes scanned my surroundings desperately. My heart stopped altogether as my gaze fell on the body a few feet away from me. Lucy was sprawled out on the sand, completely motionless. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think clearly, couldn't even bring myself to stand. As soon as my feet could function once again, I rushed to her side, dropping on my knees before her. I gently placed my palm against her forehead to check her temperature. She was burning up. I scanned our surroundings once again. I couldn't keep her here under the hot sun, needed to find some sort of shelter for her immediately. I gently picked her up, cradling her against my chest before I rushed into the woods. She groaned against me and I shifted her in my arms so I could get a better look at her face. Her lips were dry from the fever, her eyes still closed. The fever seemed to be getting worse by the minute, making it hard for me to focus on anything but cooling her body down. I continued to race through the forest, only stopping when I spotted a river nearby. I gently laid her down, tearing a piece of my vest as I quickly soaked it into the water and placed it onto her forehead. After leaving it there for a few minutes, I gently removed the cloth and replaced it with my hand. The fever wasn't going down. I removed the vest completely, almost ripping it off my chest impatiently, and shoved it into the water. I swallowed as I slowly begun to wipe her body, starting from her neck and running the cloth slowly down her chest. My breath hitched, the reminder of having them within my reach made it hard to think clearly, my hands craving to hold them once again, aching to caress the soft buds, my throat tightened as I once again fought to think straight. Lucy moaned beside me. Austin, she cried out. It hurts, I need tell me. I whispered, desperate to help her in whatever way I could. What she screamed, thrashing from side to side as she grabbed my hands and pressed it tighter. More. She cried out, rubbing her thighs together. I froze. It couldn't be. My body shook, my shaft tightening in my pants as I dropped to my knees before her as waves of her arousal hit me harder than anything ever did in my entire life. Oh! Lucy was going into heat. Austin's POV, I groaned and rolled off Lucy, feeling completely exhausted and lifeless. In fact, at the moment I could barely feel my legs as I laid flat on my back with my hands sprawled out to the sides of me. I looked above me, staring at the sun that was about to set. Which meant we'd been at it for approximately half of the day, but luckily for both of us, the kneading was finally over. I didn't think I would be able to last another round. Lucy sighed in contentment beside me as she leaned into my side, resting her hand on my bare chest, her eyes still closed. I desperately wanted to roll over and take her in my arms. Desperately wanted to ask her if she was okay, but had absolutely no energy left in me, so I settled for just looking at her from this angle. My eyes were slowly scanning her body from top to bottom, taking in how beautiful this woman really was. Unable to wrap my mind around the fact that I'd spent the last few hours buried so deep inside her, I fought back a groan. I stayed in that position for a few minutes, waiting impatiently for my energy to return as my body healed itself from the strain. The kneading was indeed something special that provided both male and female with tremendous pleasure, but at the same time it also completely drained you both of all the energy within your body. It was unfortunately 10 times worse on the female than it was on the male, however, so I desperately wanted to regain my strength to properly take care of Lucy, the way in which she deserved. Sudden footsteps caught my attention at the same time familiar scents filled my nostrils. I froze, my head snapping up in the direction of the sound so fast that I felt a wave of dizziness flash through me. A string of curses left my mouth as I tried to blink through the dizziness, as my eyes focused on the scene in front of me. I was greeted by shocked looks of all of the members from both my pack and that of my brothers. Nick was the first to break the silence with a low whistle, while the rest of the oppressors had an amused look on their faces. My eyes went to James, whose face was completely red, which was a very rare sight to see. My eyes continued to focus on the faces of my brother's pack, and I saw red. They were staring at Lucy's body with a hungry gaze. A loud growl tore from me, shaking the trees around us as I rushed to cover Lucy's body with my own, sending a death glare their way. The men immediately took a step back and turned the other direction without another word. Lucy buried her head against my chest in embarrassment as I picked her up with me before placing her down on her feet. I took a deep breath, trying to suppress my anger towards the males. I needed to constantly remind myself that they were my allies, not my enemy. "Are you okay?" I asked Lucy while handing her dress to her. A blush made its way on her face as she looked down at her torn underwear on the ground. "Yes," she whispered, refusing to look up at me. A smile formed on my lips at her reaction as I continued to stare at her while she quickly threw the dress on, her cheeks a beautiful shade of red. "Is it safe to turn around now?" Lucas called, the grin evident in his voice. A scowl immediately replaced my smile as I tugged back on my jeans. "You can now," I growled. "I guess we were worried for nothing." Asher teased as they all turned around looking more amused than before. "It looks like our alpha has been doing way better than we expected." "How did you escape, Vincent?" I asked, suddenly remembering that the vampire had claimed that he was going to ambush the packs. My eyes scanned the men. None of the members were injured, so clearly there hadn't been any fight. "Lucy's brothers came to warn us," James answered. I felt Lucy stiffen beside me, the color draining from her face at the sudden mention of her brothers. "Are they okay?" she asked, her forehead creasing with worry. James gave her a sympathetic look. "We can't say for sure, they risked a lot by coming to warn us. We can only hope Vincent doesn't suspect their betrayal." "Vincent is way too experienced to not expect a betrayal from the Cross brothers for the safety of their sister," I pointed out. "Hopefully they have no proof against them." "We aren't in the clear yet," James announced loud enough for everyone to hear. Lucy's brothers would try to hold off Vincent for as long as they could, but there is no doubt the vampire would send out a search party for us. In fact, I'm sure he already knows exactly where to look for us, since anyone would guess that the first place to start looking would be on the shorelines, since that is where you and Lucy would be expected to wash up. "You're right," I nodded in agreement. "We need to start moving now, get out of this place and back to our territory as fast as we could. If the vampire decided to still come for us, we had a better chance in our own territory. I would have a lot more time to prepare and get back up from other pack alliances in which I'd helped in the past." At the mention of the council, many of the packs would instantly want to back out, but I knew a loyal few that would fight along our side if it ever came to that. Lucy's POV, I was glowing, could feel the happiness inside of me reflecting on the outside. Austin had been by my side the entire trip back home, ensuring that I was okay. At times he had even lifted me in his arms, refusing to let me walk on my own feet, to the amusement of the pack members. It was as if they had never seen their alpha act that way before, and for some reason I think they loved it. I, on the other hand, couldn't even bring myself to look at Austin after what had transpired between us. Every time I thought about it, I felt my face burn with embarrassment. It was, however, one of the best days of my entire life. Never before had I experienced such pleasure and happiness mixed in one. It was a day I would never forget, for Austin brought me to places I didn't even know existed. Another blush made its way on my face as I thought about how many times he'd been buried deep inside me. I was ashamed to admit it, but even now I wished that he still was. Already missed feeling that irreplaceable connection with him. It also seemed as though Austin's possessive side had doubled after what had happened between us, if that was even possible, for there were multiple times where he wanted to attack some of the men for even looking my way. In fact, I think most of them were even afraid to speak a single word to me now. All thoughts suddenly left my mind as I noticed we had finally made it back home. Already I could feel the tension ease up around us as everyone released a sigh of relief. At times I'm sure many of us wondered if we would have even made it back here alive with how brutal the council was. We owed everything to my brothers for risking their own lives to save ours. "They're back!" I heard Maya scream as we entered the pack house. I watched as she pulled her 3 brothers in for a hug. "I missed you!" she cried as they returned her hug, James ruffling her hair and making it all messy while Lucas pinched her cheeks. I felt an emptiness in the pit of my stomach as I watched their loving exchange. I already missed my siblings. It didn't help that I wasn't even sure in what state we had left them in. For all I knew they could be getting punished all now for helping us escape. The thought made my heart clench almost painfully. I wish there was some way I could get some sort of update on their well-being, just to ease my mind a little. Maya turned to me with a bright smile that traveled all the way to her beautiful eyes. I've missed you as well, Lucy. I'm so happy we have you back with us. I returned her smile, leaning into her embrace. Thank you, Maya. I'm also very happy to be back. And I truly meant every word. Before my brothers had even introduced themselves to me, Austin's family was the first to have ever welcomed me with open arms and made me feel like I was someone important. The first family who'd actually openly accepted me into their homes, something I've always wanted and wished for. Yes, we are. Austin's parents confirmed as they also pulled me in for a tight hug. I smiled against their embrace. Thank you. I whispered. It felt nice to have people that cared for me be so close to me. Without even knowing it, they were helping me to be strong and deal with the fact that once again I was separated from my loved ones. We truly are sorry for the way we let you leave, Lucy. I hope you can find some way to forgive us. The Queen apologized. I shook my head at her. Please don't apologize. I understand why you did. No one did anything wrong and it is all in the past now. There isn't anything to forgive. I assured all of them, for even Maya and Lucas seemed to fully agree with their mother's words. Austin! A high-pitched scream echoed from the doorway, the entire room growing completely quiet and still. I froze. No. Please don't tell me it is who I think it is. I had totally forgotten about her existence with everything that was happening around us with the council and my family. I turned just in time to see Ariana walk in, staring at Austin as if she didn't believe he was right there before her eyes. I don't know why, but her expressions seemed all fake, as though she'd rehearsed it multiple times before coming here. I stiffened as she ran straight into his arms, holding on to him tightly as though I wasn't here standing right next to him. When he raised his arms and wrapped them around her, I completely lost it. I felt like my whole heart had just shattered right before my eyes as reality sunk in. My eyes stung with tears as my legs shook with the sudden reminder that Ariana was the woman he loved, not me. Austin didn't love me. No, he loved her. Lucy's POV, I felt everyone's eyes on me. Surely they all wanted to see my reaction to Austin and Ariana embracing right before me. Like always, a lot of sympathetic gazes were sent my way. This time, however, I noticed many of the pack members giving Austin and Ariana disappointed looks, clearly just as unhappy about it as I was. I clutched my tummy in pain, my stomach suddenly feeling uneasy, as though I wanted to throw up. I rushed through the narrow hallway without saying a word to anyone, not stopping till I reached a washroom. I threw open the door and shut it behind me before leaning over the sink, trying hard not to puke. However, the wave of nausea that attacked me had me doubling over as I emptied my stomach into the sink to the front of me. Hot tears filled my eyes as I blinked through the hurt and pain. Compared to before, my reaction to seeing Austin and Ariana had definitely gotten much worse. Was it really so bad to the point of me throwing up? I dropped to the floor and covered my face with my hands. Things were really bad. I couldn't imagine a life where I had to see Ariana around Austin. It would destroy me to have to see something like that every day. Lucy. I heard Maya call from the doorway. Are you in there? I forced myself to get up from the floor and open the door. Maya took one look at me and scrunched her nose, a crease forming on her forehead. "You don't look well," she pointed out with a concerned look. "Are you ill?" I shook my head, not wanting her to worry about me. For I knew if I told Maya she would announce it to everyone outside, and at the moment I just wanted to lock myself in a room and stay away from everyone. Needed some time to myself, no, needed to be away from Austin and Ariana. I'd been so caught up with all the drama that took place at the council's palace that I'd forgotten about the sad reality of my life. What I saw a few minutes ago was like a cold dash of water to my face, reminding me of my life here. "I don't know if this is the right time to tell you this," Maya started warily. "But my parents have decided to hold a party tonight to celebrate everyone's safe return." I held back a groan. I didn't want Maya to feel bad. After all, they were doing this for our safe return. I couldn't not attend. The last thing I wanted to do was attend a party tonight, however, knowing exactly what I'll have to deal with if I did. The last time they had a party, Ariana was all up on Austin and I had to stand there and watch. I didn't know if I would be able to handle that this time. For it seemed as though my reaction to seeing them together had definitely gone from bad to worse. We were finally back home and I was happy to be in my room, away from everyone. I dropped onto the bed and buried my head against the pillows. I heard the door crack open and I didn't need to look up to know that it was Austin. His scent immediately filled the room, everything else drowning out around me. "Lucy!" I heard him call in a gentle tone. My heart ached. How could he say my name like that after having that woman in his arms right in front of me, like I meant absolutely nothing to him? The thought about that earlier incident made me sick to my stomach once more, the sudden urge to throw up appearing once again. I rose up from the bed slowly without looking in his direction as I placed my feet on the ground, feeling for my slipper. As soon as I felt it, I slipped it on and rose up gracefully. "How are you?" he asked when I chose to say nothing. How was I? Why did he even care? I felt his eyes on me, trailing my every move, his gaze burning into my body as I moved away, but still I refused to say anything or even look at him for that matter. I wanted to scream at him, tell him how much he and that girl had hurt me, tell him how heartless he was to put me through this after everything we've been through together the past few days. I bit my lip and blinked back the tears. No. I wouldn't cry in front of him. I ignored his question as I strode out of the room. I felt him following me but didn't bother to stop or turn around. "Lucy!" he called once again, panic evident in his tone. I refused to speak a word to him, completely heartbroken and hurt that he would just run back to Ariana after everything that happened between us. Before I could reach any further, however, he grabbed onto my arm and pulled me to a stop. He spun me around so that I was now facing him, his finger reached below my chin, forcing me to look him in the eye. He peered down at me, his eyes searching my own as though he was trying to understand what my problem was and why I was acting this way. "Were all men this clueless? What's wrong?" he whispered, his forehead creasing with concern. How could he not know? How clueless can one person be? "Are you not feeling well?" he inquired softly, when I chose to remain quiet. His deep blue eyes like always pulled me in, making it hard to think clearly, especially when they looked at me the way he was staring at me now, like if he didn't know what was wrong but desperately wanted to fix it. I forced myself to look away, his eyes always made me weak. I wasn't about to let that happen again, at least not this time. Lucy, please, Alpha. Alex interrupted, his eyes going back and forth between Austin and I. Austin gave Alex a death glare for the interruption and he instantly paled. I'm sorry to interrupt, Alpha, but there is an issue that needs tending to immediately, he announced. He reluctantly let go of me, not before giving me another look of longing, however. I ignored it and turned the other direction. He could go give that look to Ariana. Even though I was the one who had thought of those words, it hurt like hell. I didn't want him looking at her, period. I inwardly cried. God, this was so hard. A quiet sigh escaped my lips. The party had just started and already I wanted to leave the moment I saw Ariana enter the room. Her presence immediately put a damper in my mood. It wouldn't be long before she went to find Austin. I hadn't seen him since our last encounter where I'd completely ignored him. Whatever Alex had called him for seemed to have kept him preoccupied for the rest of the day. I see we meet again. I stiffened as my gaze fell on Eric, Ariana's father. The last time I'd met him, he had completely creeped me out. Things hadn't changed. He still made me feel extremely uncomfortable. I forced a smile on my face before shaking his outstretched hand. The word is out that your father is none other than Alpha Richard. He pointed out, taking a drink out of the cup in his hand. We were once good friends until he betrayed your husband's family. My eyes narrowed. Why was he bringing this up now? Your point? I asked, not the least bit happy with where this conversation was going. The man's gaze darkened, his face looking 10 times creepier than before. Everyone here may have forgotten that your family are traitors, but I won't. The apple doesn't fall far from the tree. I'll be keeping my eyes on you. What exactly was this man implying? He continued to glare at me until the Queen joined us. Is everything okay? She asked me, studying my tensed state. Everything's fine. I was just asking the princess about her time spent at the council. Eric answered before I could say a word to Austin's mother. My lips pressed together in anger and frustration. This man was just as bad as his daughter. He was right. The apple didn't fall far from the tree. I quietly excused myself at the uncomfortable silence that followed between us, not wanting to be anywhere near this pathetic man. I didn't make it far, however, as none other than Ariana was standing in front of me, blocking my way. When I tried to go around her, she pushed forward and grabbed onto my arm roughly, her nails digging into my skin. I know what you're doing, she hissed, glaring at me. I gave her a blank look. Excuse me. She flipped her hair and rolled her eyes. I know you're doing everything to take Austin from me, but he's mine, she threatened. The only reason he's been protecting you thus far is because of his caring nature. In fact, tonight I'll show you just how much more I mean to him than you do. Watch him spend the entire night with me. A few hours later and I came to the conclusion that Ariana was right. I'd spent the entire night so far seeing Austin tend to her. He didn't leave her side for a second, even though I was just a few feet away from them. It was like he couldn't even see me as long as she was around, and it broke me in a way that was difficult to put into words. I just felt completely lost and broken inside, like a part of my heart had been ripped out and stepped on in the most brutal way possible. My legs were shaking from the pain the hurt brought to my body, and I had to grip the chair next to me to keep from dropping to the floor and letting out all of the tears I had bottled up inside. "Hi there, beautiful." I was so lost in my thoughts that I didn't notice someone standing before me. I glanced up at the tall stranger. He had ash blonde hair and scary dark eyes. His lips were curved in a smile as he focused all his attention on me. I gave him a confused look. "Were you speaking to me?" He chuckled. "Well, you are the most beautiful in the room." I looked around me, trying to find some way to escape from this man's presence, but I couldn't see anyone who could help. Something about him screamed trouble, and I found it weird that he would openly flirt with me knowing that I was married to Austin. Since everyone else around seemed to respect that fact and kept their distance. "Can I have this dance?" he asked when I remained silent after I saw no reason to entertain this conversation. I shook my head. "I'm sorry, I don't think." The guy grabbed my waist without my consent, pulling me against him. "Come on, one dance wouldn't hurt, sweetheart." Before I had a chance to react and push him away, a loud menacing growl rippled throughout the room. I jumped as the entire crowd grew silent. "Get your hands off her!" Austin roared. Eric's POV. I studied the scene in front of me with interest. Just as I had expected, Austin's control had slipped upon seeing someone touch Lucy. The anger and hatred that poured out of him was directed straight at Zagan and was simply impossible to mistake. Everyone in the room could feel the tension that radiated off the alpha in great waves. "You must have a death wish!" Austin roared. He had Zagan by his neck, holding him up against the wall. The crowd was in an uproar, everyone dumbstruck and in shock at his actions. They all seemed unsure of what to do next, for no one wanted to step between Austin and Zagan with the rage burning within him. I watched as Lucas and James rushed to pull their brother off him, but even they struggled, for Austin wasn't letting go. The Alpha's grip was way too strong, and it was clear that even if they managed to pull him down, he was taking Zagan down with him. I sighed as everything came to light within seconds. From the moment Princess Lucy had entered the picture, I knew she was going to bring trouble for me. Austin's actions towards Ariana had drastically changed from the moment he married the girl. I knew I had to do some sort of experiment to find out the truth of whether or not Austin and Lucy were mates. However, the whole incident with the council had put a hold on my plans, and so I had to wait until they had returned. As soon as I'd gotten word of their return, I knew I couldn't waste any more time. Zagan was one of the best oppressors from my pack. After my suspicions about Lucy being Austin's mate, I'd explained to him exactly what I wanted him to do for me, and the party today was the perfect opportunity for my plan to be put into action. I needed someone to flirt with the princess, but not just flirt with her, actually have skin contact. That would have been more than enough for Austin to go crazy if Lucy were truly his mate. All that would be left to do was to study the Alpha's reaction closely. I continued to study the scene before me. No one could get the Alpha off Zagan. In fact, I was sure that he would kill him right there just for his own satisfaction. He was most definitely acting like someone who'd lost his mind and was out for blood. So it was true. Lucy was most definitely Austin's true mate. Which meant, it wouldn't be long for the spell to wear off. I didn't have much time. As long as Lucy was around, the spell would continue to weaken, and everything I've been planning over all of the past years would go to waste. No. I've come this far and was so close to achieving what I'd worked so hard for. I couldn't let some girl destroy my plans. Especially not the daughter of Richard. When Richard's friendship with Jeremy had posed a threat to my plans, I'd done everything in my power to get rid of Richard and his family, and it had worked. Their friendship was completely ruined in one day, and it was the happiest day of my life till date. Now, years later, his daughter had the ability to destroy it all with a flick of her finger, and I wasn't about to let that happen. If I was able to get rid of Richard, then I could do the same to his daughter. All it took for the spell to completely break was for Austin to realize Lucy was his true mate. From the time he recognized her as his own, the spell would no longer have a hold on him. At least that's what the witch had told me. It was the only way for the spell to demolish. Her exact words replayed in my head now. The spell in which I'm giving to you is very powerful. The Alpha would never doubt Ariana as his true mate unless he comes into contact with his actual real mate. She would be the only one to break the spell. If he gets into contact with her, you wouldn't have much time left before he recognizes her as his own. From the moment he does, the spell would no longer be in effect. I immediately tensed, realizing the gravity of the situation. I had to get rid of Princess Lucy, before it was too late. I sighed as my gaze fell on Austin and Zagan once again. I had to part the fight before the Alpha killed the man. I would need Zagan for the upcoming battle if it came to that. I couldn't let him die just yet. I strode over to where they stood glaring at each other. It would be seconds before Austin took a strike at Zagan. The only thing that was preventing him so far was his brothers holding him down. I had to act fast. Without another thought, I gave Zagan a powerful punch in the face. The oppressor immediately fell unconscious in Austin's strong hold. Everyone gave me surprised looks to see me knocking out one of my own men. I apologize, I told Austin. He was in the wrong and would be punished severely. He turned his attention to me without letting go of Zagan, even though the man was already unconscious in his hands. I watched as he fought to gain control of himself once again. I could see the inner battle within him, and it was clear that he wouldn't be satisfied until the oppressor was lying on the floor completely lifeless. I motioned for Ariana to step forward. I'd already discussed this with her. If things had reached this state, she was supposed to help calm down Austin. The spell was enough to do that trick. We had to make use of it for as long as we could. My daughter nodded her head and stepped beside me, placing her hand on his shoulder. Please let go now, Austin. My father would see that he's punished, she promised. I saw Lucy's eyes zero in on where Ariana's hand laid on his shoulder. The hurt I saw there just about made my night. Without staying to see what happened, she turned and pushed her way out of the crowd. Austin sensed her absence and looked over his shoulder at her leaving. He immediately let go of Zagan and pushed out the crowd after her. His movements resembled that of a lion following his prey. I watched them both go. Time was running out. My next plan had to be put into full effect. Lucy's POV. Austin turned his heated gaze on me, his hold still strong around the man's neck. And then I saw Ariana step in, placing her hands on him, pulling his attention away from me. Pain lanced through me. His hold on the man immediately slackened, and it hurt that she had so much power over him. I couldn't stay to watch any more of this. Without saying a single word, I turned and walked up the stairs. Heading straight for my room, the hairs behind my neck eventually stood up, and I knew he was following me, could feel his gaze burning a hole into my back. I opened the room door, ready to snap it shut in his face. I still didn't understand him. It was okay for him to be openly holding another woman in his arms, but from the time someone showed me any attention, he was ready to rip their heads off. Not that I was happy about the guy touching me. Austin was the only person I wanted touching me, the only person I wanted loving me. Austin pushed his hand between the door, preventing me from closing it. He surprised me when he closed it shut and locked it before turning back to me. His gaze was deadly as he took slow steps in my direction. He only stopped when he had me backed up against the wall. He was so close that our bodies were pressed against each other, his sweet breath fanning my cheeks and making it hard for me to breathe. So close that if I moved my face a little forward his lips would brush against mine softly. It annoyed me that even through all the hurt and pain I was still this attracted to him, still wanted him with a raging passion. I've tried talking to you nicely the entire day, begging you to tell me what was wrong so that I could fix it, but instead you've chosen to totally ignore me the entire day. Then tonight I see you in the arms of another man. He growled. Are you ready to tell me what is wrong now, or do I have to force it out of you? My control snapped at his words. Was he really going to talk about me being in the arms of another man? What about what he was doing to me? Do you really want to know what's wrong? I shouted, glaring at him. I'll tell you what's wrong. Austin winced at my tone, seeming confused at my outburst. After everything we've been through together these past few days, the first thing I have to see as soon as we get back is another woman in your arms. And you expect me to be happy about that? Am I some sort of robot with no feelings to have no reaction to seeing something like that? I demanded from him. Austin's gaze softened as he took a shaky breath. Lucy, I can't believe you would hurt me like this, but who am I kidding? You never even wanted me in the first place. She was the one you wanted all along, not me, so why was I even surprised to see that? I had foolishly begun to think that maybe you had developed some sort of feelings towards me, maybe you cared, and I guess that is why it hurt so much. I should have known, should have never expected anything more from you. I whispered, my voice breaking. She means everything to you. I mean nothing. I'm just someone who was forced into your life, and it's all I'll ever be. I turned my tear-filled gaze to him, finally looking him straight in the eye. So what if I was in the arms of another man? You don't want me, so what's the problem if another man wants me? Austin stiffened, his gaze hardening once more. I'll kill anyone who touches you, Lucy. He growled, his fists tightening to his side while his massive chest expanded as he took a long deep breath. It seemed as though he was fighting for control and I was pushing every single one of his buttons. Are you saying that you could have an affair and I can't? I demanded. What if I said I liked it when he touched me? Maybe I want to be with him and not you. In fact, I think I should go see him now. A low growl rumbled from his throat as our eyes met. Austin's glassy stare immediately turned to ice at my words. Over my dead body? He roared before gripping my waist tightly. Austin picked me up and threw me on the bed with ease. Before I had time to react, he was on top of me. His gaze held me completely in place and I couldn't move an inch even if I wanted to. Leaving me with no choice but to stare into his beautiful eyes. I gasped at the anguish and hurt I saw there. The emotions he felt inside were reflected deep in his eyes, and I would be lying if I said it didn't break me further. Don't ever say something like that again, Lucy. I won't be able to control myself the next time you do. He warned, the pain in his voice tugging at my heart. I want to rip him apart. I could go downstairs and finish him off, Lucy. I'll kill him for touching you. Austin closed his eyes and inhaled deeply, when he opened them again the hurt was buried deep inside and was now replaced with a mixture of rage and lust. His eyes traveled from my eyes to my lips and he slowly traced it with one of his fingers. My lips parted at his touch. He leaned in close as his eyes grew a shade darker. "These lips are mine, all mine," he whispered before leaning down and gently brushing his lips against mine almost teasingly. "To touch, kiss, suck," he continued as he pulled my bottom lip into his mouth and gently sucked on it. His breathing becoming much heavier. My eyes shut close at the intense pleasure as he gently sucked on them. He stopped immediately to my horror. "Open your eyes, Lucy," he ordered. "Watch me, watch as I leave my mark here," he whispered hoarsely. I opened my eyes just in time to see him. My mind completely lost it somewhere and getting lost in his deep blue eyes that seemed to see straight through me. He didn't stop. I couldn't stop myself even if I wanted to. He was staring at me like he wanted to eat me alive. "You're mine, Lucy, don't you ever forget that." I swiftly rose up and covered my body with the sheets. Austin growled in disapproval at me. "This is the last time I'll ever let you touch me," I threatened as I felt the tears form in my eyes. "If I have to see you with her one more time, Austin, I swear to God I'll leave this place and you'll never see me again." Austin's eyes widened in shock and horror at my words. Before he had a chance to respond or recover from my words, I quickly rushed into the bathroom and locked myself in as I broke down in tears. As my words, my actions, everything made it all clear to me now. I loved him. I loved Austin. God, I loved him, I really loved him, with everything in me. I couldn't pretend anymore, I was so deeply and madly in love with him, to the extent that I would give my life for him, to the point that I'd die inside if I had to see him with someone else. To the point that if he ever left me, he would be taking a part of me along with him. Austin's POV, I stormed out the room, fighting the urge to punch the walls. When I had seen Zagan holding Lucy, my control had snapped. I wanted to kill her. It didn't help that she had ignored me the entire day either, it only fueled the fire burning inside me. I took a long deep shaky breath, remembering the hurt in her eyes and the way her voice had broken while telling me that she would leave me if she ever saw me with Ariana again. The worst part was that I desperately wanted to stop her pain, desperately wanted to make her happy, but I didn't know how to do it with Ariana being my mate. I made my way down the stairs and pushed through the crowd. I needed to be away from everyone right now, needed to let it all out before I went insane. As I made my way out the hall, I reached over and held onto the door handle tightly, my hands trembling at the thought of losing Lucy. I pushed the back door open. As soon as it shut behind me, I dropped to my knees on the grass and let out a soul-shattering roar, not a care in the world that there was still a room full of werewolves inside the ballroom and that they all would be able to hear me. When that didn't seem like enough, I picked myself up and started punching at the gates in anger and frustration. Even that wasn't enough to stop the pain I felt growing inside of me. I continued to punch harder, letting out another loud roar. I wanted to rip out my shirt and tear my own body apart, wanted to harm myself in the most painful way possible for hurting Lucy. I felt helpless and lost. I didn't know what to do, didn't know how to fix this problem, and it was slowly killing me. "Austin!" James shouted my name as he approached me. "You need to stop that, what is wrong with you?" he demanded as he grabbed hold of my shoulder to stop me from attacking the gate. I don't know what to do, I confessed, my hands dropping to my sides completely void of life. I feel trapped. Talk to me, brother. I breathed heavily. I can't let her go, ever. I whispered more to myself than to him. I'll die if I ever had to let her go. I can't let her go, I repeated in agony. My brother's forehead creased in confusion. Lucy or Ariana? Lucy. My breath hitched at that thought. My head throbbed painfully and my heart hammered as a thought suddenly crossed my mind. Is it possible to have two mates? That would explain a lot of things, for the feelings that I had for Lucy wasn't normal, but yet they were still different from what I felt for Ariana. So different. I couldn't even explain it. God, I was going insane. James paused at my question, as if searching his mind for an answer. I've heard of instances before, so it isn't exactly impossible, but it is a very rare case. I wasn't even sure why I was asking this question. I've also heard of werewolves having more than one mate, but it usually happened if their first mate died. I've never actually heard of them having two mates at the exact same time. I feel like time is running out on me and I need to make a decision soon. I groaned, dropping my head into my hands helplessly. James sighed before placing his hand on my shoulder once again. I'm positive you'll make the right decision, he assured me. You always do, it's what got you the title of the most powerful pack in the first place. You'll figure it out, brother, trust me, you will. Eric's POV, you heard that? Ariana whispered. Everyone heard that. I told my daughter at the sound of the Alpha's deafening roar just outside the palace. I watched as James rushed out the room upon hearing the roar. You stay here and find out what more you can about just how far Austin's and Lucy's relationship has reached while I go and listen in on their conversation. I was careful not to make a sound as I searched for a hiding spot where both men couldn't possibly see me, though I doubt they would be looking out for anyone with the rage Austin was in. I listened in on the brothers' conversation, my body tensed with each word that came out their mouths. I had even less time than I had originally thought. If Austin was already questioning the possibility of having two mates, it wouldn't be long before he realized that Lucy was his one and only mate. When that happened, he would question why his feelings for Ariana suddenly disappeared, and then it wouldn't take him long again to figure out he was under a spell. Things would only get worse from there. I needed to get Ariana and leave now to plan my next move. Lucy would be gone before Austin even got a chance to figure out she was his mate. I would make sure of it. Lucy's POV, I awoke the next day in pain. My entire body felt sore and not like itself at all. I lay in bed just staring at the ceiling, the throbbing headache making it hard to think clearly. Not that I wanted to be thinking clearly, for my mind always traveled straight back to Austin. In fact, it didn't matter where I was or what I was doing. For some reason he was always on my mind. I closed my eyes, hoping to clear my head, but it only made things worse as images of Austin flashed across my mind. I buried my head against the pillows in frustration. Maybe a shower would help. I slowly picked myself off the bed and strolled into the bathroom. With tired, drowsy eyes, I hastily slipped out of my clothes and wrapped my body in a towel. As I neared the bathroom mirrors, my gaze immediately caught my reflection there. I looked like hell. With a frown, I slowly scanned my face, moving from my swollen lips to my dark swollen eyes, which was a result from all of the crying last night. I dropped the towel, my eyes immediately drawn to the beautiful love marks Austin had left on my body last night. I ran my hands over them slowly, remembering the wonderful feeling of having his lips on me and wishing they still were there. I sighed, my eyes dropping to my stomach. My forehead furrowed, my tummy seemed a lot more bigger than what it usually looked like. I ran my hands over the small bump and froze when I felt a small movement inside me. I stood completely still, waiting to see if I would feel the movement again. Was it possible I had imagined it? Before I had time to process the thought even further, I was hit with a wave of nausea just like yesterday. I leaned over the sink and emptied my stomach. When I thought it was finally over, it hit me even harder than before and I stumbled forward over the sink again. What was this? Something was definitely wrong with me. I needed to visit a doctor. I buried my face in my hands with a groan. I always hated being in a doctor's office. How much worse could things get for me? It took me like an hour to fully compose myself before I finally made my way down the stairs. Maya was the first person I saw and I was happy for that. "Good morning." She greeted me with a bright smile. However, as her eyes took me in, the smile was immediately replaced by a frown. "You still don't look so well, have you been crying?" I shook my head at her. "I just didn't get much sleep last night," I lied. I also wanted to ask if it were possible for me to visit the village today. "You want to visit the village?" Maya asked, repeating my words. I nodded. "Okay, sure, I'll get a driver ready for you," she informed me with a smile. "Do you want me to accompany you?" I thought about that for a moment. If Maya accompanied me, she would know I'm going to visit the doctor. The last thing I wanted was anyone worrying about me. I shook my head at her. "No, it's okay, I just wanted to walk around a bit and have some alone time." Maya nodded her head in understanding. "I totally get it, Lucy. Hopefully this trip helps clear your mind a bit." I smiled at her, happy that she didn't press the matter further. A thought crossed my mind and I couldn't stop myself from asking the next question. "Have you seen Austin?" I asked her, afraid of her response. I hadn't seen him since last night and I feared he was with Ariana. Her eyes softened. Austin wasn't in his best state of mind yesterday, so he and James went for a run last night. I don't know where they went after, but I haven't seen them since then," she informed me. I breathed a sigh of relief to know that he was with his brother. However, despite everything, I was still concerned about his well-being and didn't like hearing that he wasn't okay. I shook the thought out of my head. There was no use worrying about it now. Eric's POV. My eyes took in the scene in front of me as a pleased smile formed on my lips. My men were proving just how strong they were. Their training had improved tremendously over the past few months. They understood that our time was coming soon. What we had worked so hard for over the past years was finally almost within our reach. No longer would we be known as the second best. The word second alone darkened my mood. I hated our title. From day one we deserved to be number one, not second. But it wasn't long for it all to change. Wasn't long at all. I already knew of a way to dispose of Lucy and I couldn't wait for the plan to be put into effect. When she was out of the way, nothing else could possibly disrupt my plans. I felt giddy with excitement. I couldn't wait a second longer. There would be no breaks today. I told my men as they all nodded their heads, sweat trickling down their bodies. Not a single one of them complaining, for they all knew what happened to the last person who complained. He was no longer here with us. After giving several orders to my beta, I climbed the stairs to my chamber. "Mandy!" I shouted. The maid immediately rushed in and gave a low bow. "What can I do for you today, Alpha? Let my daughter know that I wish to see her immediately, and after you're done serve us some food," I ordered. "Move faster!" I roared. The maid jumped at my tone and flew out the room in panic. I took a sigh and leaned back against my chair. I needed the constant reminder of what was to come in order to stay calm. The thought once again thrilled me. I watched as Ariana made her way towards me. We had a lot of important matters to discuss today. "What do you want to do next, father?" she asked me as she took a seat on one of the metal chairs. "How is the spell?" I answered her question with a question of my own. She sighed. "It continues to weaken. I'm losing my control on him." I nodded my head, just as I had expected. "I've asked around and done some digging up," I told her. "From what I've heard, Lucy has no idea that Austin thinks you are his mate. We can use this to our advantage. She's already insecure about your relationship with him. If she believes that you're his mate, it may be the little push we need for her to leave." Ariana shook her head in agreement. "How do you propose I tell her, or when?" "I'll have one of my men tell Austin that you are in danger while he's in the presence of Lucy. It would be more than enough to help our case, since she would be able to see just how fast he runs to your side when you're in danger." Ariana smiled, her eyes lighting up at my words. "I like the sound of that. After Austin leaves her presence to save you, she would be left alone and completely vulnerable. It would give you enough time to make Lucy believe that Austin is your mate. I'm positive that she would leave after you confront her, and all of our problems should leave with her." Ariana's smile broadened further. "You truly come up with the best plans, father. This ought to be fun." Lucy's POV, Adam gave me a puzzled look. "A village doctor." Maya had assigned Adam to take me to the village. Apparently, just like Austin, she wanted only the best of the best protecting me. She also claimed that Austin wouldn't be too happy about me leaving the palace without him, but she understood that I needed this, and so she wouldn't let me leave unless I took Adam along with me. Not that I had a problem with Adam, I just wasn't sure I wanted anyone digging too much into this. "Yes, a doctor," I repeated myself. Adam held in a smile. "What was so funny?" "Ah, princess," he started. "It's best we take you to a werewolf doctor, not one of the village doctors. Few of them actually know of the existence of werewolves, and if there is a problem with you, a werewolf doctor would be of much more better assistance." "Oh. I never had that problem before in my old kingdom, but then again I was under the spell from the witch my father had hired that hid my werewolf background from everyone." "Can you take me to one then?" I asked. "Where there isn't much people," I added. The last thing I wanted was a crowd. He studied me for a moment before responding. "Sure, but should I mention something to Austin?" I immediately shook my head. "Please don't." His eyes narrowed suspiciously. "It's just that I don't want to worry anyone. I've just been having these constant headaches, that's all." Adam seemed to buy that excuse, for he quickly nodded. It wasn't long for us to reach the doctor's office, and once Adam explained to the werewolf whom I was, everyone there immediately came to my aid and took all the tests they saw fit after I described my symptoms. After some time, the doctor whom I had seen earlier finally motioned for me to join him in the room once again. I couldn't understand why, but for some reason I was very nervous for the results. My hands were shaking and I actually wished Austin was here with me right now. As I took a seat on one of the chairs given to patients, he turned to me with a bright smile. "Well, Princess Lucy, your results are finally in." And his smile broadened. "Congratulations. Congratulations? What? Was I missing something? What doctor congratulated their patient when they were sick?" I continued to gape at him, waiting for him to say more, not exactly sure what he was congratulating me on. "Excuse me?" I asked him when he didn't say anything further, feeling completely lost and needing the doctor to add to his last statement. He studied me for a minute without saying a word, looking as though he didn't understand why I hadn't figured out what he'd meant as yet. "You're pregnant," he finally announced after studying my blank expression. What? My body turned to stone at his words, my mind taking some time to wrap itself around this new information. Pregnant?" I repeated in shock. "How did this even happen?" I whispered to myself. "Well, Princess," when a man and woman, the doctor stopped talking when I turned to glare at him. Too soon for jokes? Was that what I had felt earlier this morning, my baby? I don't understand. How was I already able to feel movement in my stomach? Isn't it too soon for that?" I inquired. The doctor gave me a confused look. "How much do you know about your kind?" he asked before his eyes widened. "Oh right, you didn't know of your background until recently. So basically the pregnancy of a werewolf lasts for only 3 months unlike humans, so the development is a lot faster in the case of werewolves." 3 months? Just 3 months? 3 months and I'll have a little angel in my arms? My heart welled with emotion, my mind and body finally coming to terms with the doctor's words. I placed my hand over my stomach, my eyes brimming with happy tears. I was going to be the mother of Austin's baby. The thought alone filled me with so much joy that I couldn't wait to have our baby in my arms, our little angel. It was only a few minutes since I'd found out and already I knew that this baby would be my life, my everything, nothing would ever come before him or her. He or she would be a blessing in my life, I could already feel it, feel all the love pouring out of my heart for my baby, our baby. I was in a complete daze on my trip back home. I considered giving the news to Austin's family, but I knew that I didn't want to let anyone know I was pregnant until I'd told Austin. I wanted him to know before anyone else, after all he was the father. I also wasn't sure what his reaction was going to be like. What if he didn't want our baby? My heart clenched at that thought. No, I had to keep thinking positively. Even though he hasn't been the best husband, he's always protected me and kept me safe. If he could be that way for someone he didn't love, then he would have to care for his own baby. "Princess," Adam called. "We're back home," he informed me. Oh, I was so lost in my thoughts that I hadn't realized he was trying to get my attention. "Are you sure you're okay?" he asked for like the 100th time. I nodded my head. He sighed. "Good, the last thing I want is Austin coming for my head because I let something happen to you on my watch." "I'm okay," I assured him once again before exiting the vehicle and making my way inside the palace. Luckily, I didn't run into any of the family members. I wasn't sure how good I would be at keeping this information from them. It didn't take long for me to reach my room. With a sigh I dropped myself onto the bed and tried hard to keep my composure. How was I going to break the news to Austin? I didn't even know where he were. Was he even back home since last night? I spent the rest of the day in the same position, not moving an inch as I kept replaying the doctor's words over and over in my head. I probably rubbed my stomach over 100 times as well, wanting to feel my baby's movement at least one more time for the day. Now that I knew what I had felt came from him or her, I just wanted to feel it once more and this time treasure it with all my heart. I knew the moment Austin had entered the room, felt his presence even before that. I slowly turned and found him at the doorway, my eyes immediately connected with his bare chest. Why was he shirtless? Not that I was complaining. I continued to openly stare, my eyes taking it all in as he stood there in all his glory, his divine sculpted very much masculine chest making me forget everything but a man in front of me. God! My cheeks immediately reddened as I realized the direction of my thoughts. Was this a part of the pregnancy hormones? I took a deep breath and forced myself to look away as the word pregnancy reminded me of exactly what was about to come. My eyes slowly traveled to his face and I gasped at the hunger I saw etched deep in his eyes while he openly took me in as well. We need to talk. I finally willed myself to say, realizing that neither one of us were planning on moving from our original position and if we kept it up we would just spend the rest of the day staring at each other. Austin nodded, his eyes held a bit of curiosity as he approached me. What is it? He asked as he hesitantly took a seat on one of the chairs to the front of me. I fidgeted with my hands on my lap as I tried to build up the courage to tell him. Austin got up from the chair and stepped down in front of me. He gently reached over and placed his finger under my chin, forcing me to look him in the eye. What's wrong? Just like always I got lost in his eyes as they completely pulled me in, making it hard to think clearly. I swallowed and took a deep breath as I tried to find my voice. I wanted more than anything to throw myself into his arms and hear him tell me that everything would be okay, that he would love our baby and I had nothing to worry about. I wanted to hear from him that I was the only woman in his life, that from now on nothing mattered but both of us. But I knew that was all just me dreaming, for I couldn't possibly expect him to say that in reality when Ariana was the woman he loved. Austin continued to search my face as he waited for me to speak. He seemed to be growing impatient with each second that passed by. I didn't get to continue as footsteps outside the door interrupted me right before I could finish what I was about to say. It was also quite clear that the person was shouting Austin's name. Who was that? It wasn't a voice I'd heard before since I'd come to live here. Austin quickly picked himself off the floor and rushed out the door. I followed him outside in panic. Was something wrong? Austin! The man called once more, seeming out of breath. Ariana Austin immediately stiffened upon hearing her name. What happened to her? He demanded, taking a step closer to him. My heart broke as I saw the worry on Austin's face for Ariana's safety. I also didn't want anything to have happened to her, but it still hurt to see him care so much for a woman who wasn't me. She's in danger. I watched in shock as Austin took off storming down the stairs, not even waiting a second more to hear what else the man had to say, not even caring that I was right here, completely forgetting that I had important information to share with him. Was this how it would always be like? Austin forgetting about the existence of both my baby and I while he went to tend to Ariana? I placed my head in my hands as I tried to fight the tears that threatened to fall once more. I didn't know how long I stayed like that, but a moment later I felt the presence of someone near me. Was it the same man from earlier? Hi Lucy. Ariana. What was she doing here? I lifted my head out from my hands as our gazes locked. I thought you were in danger, I accused, narrowing my eyes at her. She laughed as she rolled her eyes at me. It was just a false alarm, a little stunt I put together so that you could see just how much Austin loves me. My eyes widened. What? Oh, naive Lucy! Ariana hissed while shaking her head at me. Do you still not get it? What was she trying to tell me? I am Austin's mate, she announced, throwing her hands in the air. In other words, he can't possibly live without me, so there is absolutely no place for you in his life. Her words shocked me to the very core, taking away my will to breathe and shattering my heart into tiny pieces. Every single word my sister had said to me while I was at the council raced through my mind now. If Ariana was Austin's mate, then she was right. I could never have a place in his life. It also meant he would never leave her, and I already knew I couldn't see them together, for if I had to it would completely break me. What was I going to do? You're really pathetic if you're actually considering staying with Austin after finding out I'm the only one he will ever want. She spat disgustingly. She was right. I couldn't stay here anymore after what I'd just found out, especially not after I was pregnant. My baby was now my everything, my whole life. I lived for the angel in my tummy, and I would never allow him or her to grow up under these circumstances. The next thought completely shattered everything within me. I had to leave. Leave Austin, forever. As soon as Ariana left, I fell to the ground, unable to stop the tears from flowing down my cheeks. I didn't know how to do it, didn't know how to leave Austin. I trembled. I couldn't think of a life without him in it, not after everything I've felt for him, after everything he has made me feel, not after the fire he had ignited within me, a fire that only he could control. I blinked through the tears, fighting hard to think clearly. If I wanted to leave before Austin got back, I had to stop thinking about him, had to stop my heart from feeling before I cried my life out. Where was I going to go? I couldn't possibly go back to the council. I would never let my child grow up in that sick place. As much as I wanted to be near my family, it wasn't a risk I could take. I needed to go somewhere my baby would be safe. I considered going back to my first home, but I knew my step-parents would never accept me back there. They were happy to get rid of me. It also wasn't some place I'd want my baby growing up. They hated me with a passion and would no doubt hate my baby as well. Then it hit me, the house where my brothers had taken me to the first time they'd introduced themselves to me, our first home. It was the perfect place. There was a quiet village nearby and Austin hadn't been able to find me there back then. I could find a work, I already had the house. I was sure my family wouldn't mind me staying there, after all it had no one there at the moment. It wasn't hard to find either. I think I remembered everything from our trip back from after my brothers had kidnapped me and were bringing me back to the palace. I picked myself off the floor and stepped into the room, trying hard not to look at anything that reminded me of Austin. It would only make it much harder to leave. I pulled a suitcase out of the wardrobe and began packing. I wiped at the tears as I continued to shove my clothes into it. I considered just leaving without letting Austin's family know, but I quickly dismissed that thought. After everything they'd done for me, I at least owed them a thank you and a proper goodbye. I found Maya and her parents in the dining room. Maya was the first to look my way, her brows furrowed as her eyes fell on the suitcase in my hand. "Why are you holding a suitcase?" Austin's parents finally turned to me at her words. "Lucy?" the Queen questioned as she waited for me to answer Maya's question. "I'm sorry," I whispered, unable to look at them as I spoke. "You have been the family I'd always wished I'd had. Every one of you made my stay here an extremely beautiful one. I can't thank you enough for your hospitality and the love you've showered upon me. However, I can't stay here any longer." The complete silence that fell upon the room made me look up. The shocked, horrified looks on each of their faces almost made me drop the suitcase and forget about the whole thing. I hated hurting the people I cared about. "No," the Queen responded in a flat tone. "We aren't letting you go anywhere. I'm with Mother on this," Maya added. "Please don't stop me," I begged. "Each time I see Ariana with Austin it completely breaks my heart. I can't stand it anymore. I really can't. So please, if you have any heart for me at all, let me go. Please. I don't want to let you go," Maya cried. "You're the sister I've always wished for. I really can't imagine home without you here anymore. Lucy, please reconsider," the King whispered in a sad tone. "Your family now, how are we supposed to just let you go like that?" When I remained quiet, the Queen took my hands in hers. "We're sorry for the pain you've had to endure. We honestly wish things were different, but if this is what you wish to do, we will respect your wishes." My eyes stung with tears as the three of them pulled me into a hug. "You'll always be family, and if you ever need anything please remember we're here, Lucy. We will always be here for you." I nodded as I blinked through the tears. I didn't know how long we stood like that, but after a lot of crying I was finally on my way out of the palace. Austin's parents had forced me to take some cash with me. They gave me more than enough to last months, saying that they wouldn't let me go unless I took it with me since I'd already refused transportation to where I wanted to go. I didn't want anyone knowing where I was going, couldn't risk Austin coming to find me. I rubbed my tummy. "We're going to be okay," I whispered to my baby as I took one last look at the closest place to home I'd ever had. After a few seconds I finally forced myself to turn and walk away, leaving behind a piece of my heart, the love of my life, for both his happiness and the sake of my baby. Join our Facebook and WhatsApp group for more updates, link is given in description. Rest audiobook will be continued in next episode.